He's the former director of player personnel for a while for the Bears. He got here in 2015, I believe. Worked under Ryan Pace. They drafted a couple of different quarterbacks during his time here, including Justin Fields. And he joins us right now on the CarX Tire and Auto Hotline. Josh, how you doing? Welcome to Waddle and Sylvie.
I am doing well, and I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, what did you think? What was your big takeaway in watching the first game of the season with the Bears and the Packers?
Offensive side of the ball, I'm not as concerned. There is talent in every unit of that offense to be productive and score points, give the Bears a chance to win. They have to get better play from the quarterback. He said it yesterday. He's way too conservative. When there's shots, you have to rip the ball down the field. The explosive plays are so important because when you get into these 10, 12 play drives, every offensive play you run, you increase your risk of a penalty, of a mental error, a missed blocking assignment, turnover. And you saw that on Sunday. You know, they were moving the ball in the first half, and you're coming away with field goals. You're shooting yourself in the foot with penalties. You can eliminate that with shorter drives through explosive plays, and they were there. They were schemed open. He didn't rip the ball, and it led to checkdowns, long drives, lack of points. I have confidence in the offense. I thought the protection in the first half was good enough. They got behind. Green Bay is a very talented defensive front. They were very well prepared. You let any talented defensive front pin their ears back in this league, you're going to have problems.
Josh,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, on the quarterback situation, and you were here and you guys drafted Justin Fields. A lot of people, when you criticize or critique Justin Fields, call us or others haters. They say the line stinks, the coaching stinks, the execution stinks. But what you pointed out right there is tangible reasons on how he needs to get better. Explain that to the listeners, that is valid criticism or critique.
Yeah, 100%. And what gives me confidence is I don't think it's a vision problem. I've been around quarterbacks who just aren't seeing the receivers, the routes, anticipating guys coming open downfield. To me, I'm not in the room. I don't know where they're training his eyes. I can only watch the All-22 on Monday and give you my opinion. It's in his vision, and he's hesitant, and he's late, and then he decides I can't make that throw when the throws are there. The guys around him, the 10 around him, the play calls, they're there. So, you know, what you saw in the first half, to me, was more on the quarterback. As the game went on, I think you had a lack of execution. I think you had some frustrated receivers. It spilled over to their blocking. I thought the protection started to break down more in the second half when Green Bay had a chance to pin their ears back. And after he threw the pick, he didn't do a good job manipulating Seven. He tried to manipulate him. He had the little the route to Moore where he could have kind of fit the ball in the the whole shot there versus cover two. He tried to hold the linebacker, didn't do it long enough, telegraphed the throw pick. After that, he really got tentative. It was all check downs. He let it, it was opposite of the quarterback on the other side. As the game grew on, Justin got less confident. Jordan Love, no pressure around him, grew more confident as the game went on. So, were the other 10 guys around him perfect? Was the coaching perfect? No. But they were good enough in the first half where the Bears should have walked into halftime with a lead instead of being down. And then it snowballed them in the second half.
Josh,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, is this in his DNA? I mean, did you see some of these flaws when you all were thinking about taking him out of Ohio State? And are these things that you think even now, 3 years in, that they can be correctable?
So Ohio State, he had the luxury of being very slow and deliberate in the pocket and allowing things to come open down the field because of the protection he was playing with and the talent on the perimeter versus his competition. We knew he was going to have to speed things up. As long as he can see it, to me, it's just confidence. So I do think it can improve. And part of that is the last 2 years, his first 2 years in the league, it was hard to get confident because there were more of protection issues. There was a lack of talent on the perimeter. 2 different systems in his first 2 years in the league. Second year in the system this year, offensive line is good enough. I will tell you that all day long. And it's going to get better when Tevin gets back. And there's perimeter talent. There's speed. There's downfield talent. There's guys that can catch and run. He's got to get him the ball. I do think he can improve. He just has to get confident. And he hasn't become a confident NFL quarterback yet. Guys develop at different speeds. What I'm saying is there's enough around him right now. The coaching, I think, is good enough where we need to see it this year.
Yeah, they've eliminated a lot of the excuses. Do you think, Josh, that by the time, and again, we got 16 games left in the evaluation process, we have plenty of time for that. Are you confident that he can prove with improvement that he is their guy going forward, or is that a huge question for you at this time?
It's a loaded question from a talent standpoint, ability standpoint, post-snap processing. Yes, he has it. He has it.
But it's now
he's not their guy. We all know that. We can say it. Yeah, we can talk out loud about it. It's not a hidden secret.
Exactly.
I don't know what they feel about that quarterback going forward. I don't know if it's imperative they get their own guy in the building. To me, that's very risky because it's not as easy as, hey, we're just going to pick one. You know, I live that.
Right.
They all don't hit. You're not always in the position to get the one you really want. If you got a guy in the building that has everything you need to be successful at the position, you do everything you can. You exhaust every opportunity and resource to make him succeed. And it feels from the outside looking in right now, they're in a little bit of a gray area.
Yeah.
Josh,
That's just my honest, perception of what's going on right now.
Josh Lucas joining us. It's Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN 1000. Josh was the director of player personnel under Ryan Pace for the Bears since 2015. He left in 2022. I want to ask you, before we get into a couple of other things, I want to ask you about Claypool, because I thought what you said was interesting about Justin Fields not being their guy. Chase Claypool is their guy. They made that trade. They traded a very important draft pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 32nd overall, but he has really let them down since. And he has not been available. When he is available, in this first game, he's shown a lack of effort. So how many chances, Josh, does a regime give a guy like that? And what does it say to the locker room if you continue to give him more chances?
I love the question. I don't think he's exhausted his opportunities. They need to know, and I'm sure they're well aware, these emotional outbursts from this player are part of his DNA going back to Notre Dame. Same issues in Pittsburgh. They had to be well aware of them when they acquired the player. They also need to get him involved. So that, you have two sides of this. They need him to control his emotions, not let negative plays early in the game spill over to the other parts of your game. Obviously, we all know what happened in the blocking part of, his performance on Sunday. But there were chances for him early on to be targeted, to get involved, and they need to make sure they do get him involved early, because you know what you're dealing with. They know what kind of person he is and what kind of player he is. Get him involved early. Let's see how he performs. if it continues to be what we saw on Sunday, you have to be willing to admit you made a mistake, because exactly to your point, the first people that know are the players and the people in that locker room. It will become an issue if they think he's been given too many chances. I don't think they're there yet. I think it's a kind of an avalanche and pile on from his performance on Sunday. Just one game. Let's see how he performs going forward.
I remember when you guys in the draft, I think it was the year you guys took Cole Kmet in the second or third round. I forget where you guys took Cole. I think it was around the same time that Claypool was taken. And when Claypool put up the big numbers as a rookie, I'm like, damn, why didn't the Bears draft Claypool? Were you guys as a regime skeptical to take Claypool for these reasons?
Yes, we were concerned. He was not off the board by any stretch of the imagination, and we were prepared to take that player. There was enough concern where we felt better with the makeup of Cole and the consistency that we would get from Cole, and we thought it was a bigger roll of the dice with a player like Chase. And with our experience from the first several years in Chicago, we didn't want to roll the dice anymore on some of these guys where we were maybe had some concerns with their ability to become consistent every Sunday performers in the NFL.
With that conversation, Josh, is the backdrop. I'd be very interested to hear your take as a front office guy about how the Bears went about their decision to draft Darnell Wright and not draft Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter fits exactly what Matt Eberflus needs to be the motor for that defense, but there were obviously other off-the-field issues that they had to take into consideration, especially as a young front office and a young staff. Do you believe they handled the situation the manner that they had to handle it in?
He's the most talented player in the draft. He's shown through 1 week in the NFL, he may be the most talented young interior defensive lineman in the entire league. You just said it. He's absolute must for this defense based on what they're lacking right now. There had to be an extreme concern for his ability to become a reliable, accountable professional. I don't know the details.
Right.
I have all the respect in the world for that organization, for Ryan Poles and the rest of the crew, if they made that determination that they were scared enough by whatever they were hearing. I will never second guess an organization for doing that, because I've been involved when it doesn't work out.
Right.
And that's a terrible, terrible feeling and sets your organization back. And they got a really, really talented right tackle who's going to be a good player for a long time. As much as I could sit here and say, oh, they messed up and they could way use the three technique more than the right tackle, I'm not going to second guess it, because obviously the concerns were grave enough where they decided to go in another direction. And that kind of risk is real. And when it doesn't work out, it goes bad. And obviously the concerns were to that level where they made the decision that they made.
Real quick, is it a fair statement to say if you're Howie Roseman and you've got the skins on the wall, it's easier for you to make that decision than it is for Ryan Poles in his first or second year?
Yeah, one drive away from winning the Super Bowl.
Right.
Have a locker room probably where they felt, there's some vet presence in that defensive line room that could manage the player. Much easier to pull the trigger if you're Howie Roseman and you're just trying to continue to maintain the talent level of our already good roster versus someone who's in a complete rebuild and can't afford big swings and misses.
Right.
Josh Lucas joining us, the former director of player personnel for the Bears under Ryan Pace. All right, give us a story. Can you take us back in time on the drafting of Mitch, and were you included in the thought process there?
Absolutely included from the very beginning. I don't know. Can you be a little more specific on exactly what you want to ask about?
Well, let me interject this. Why Mitch versus either Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes?
So just to keep it simple, grades from the entire building, it was really Mitch, Patrick Mahomes. The grades on Deshaun were significantly lower. So the focal point from December on were those two quarterbacks. To answer the question candidly, honestly, and concise as I can, we felt we were taking the less risky player. We knew what kind of defense we were putting together. We wanted someone that had a high floor, even if we knew the ceiling was a little bit lower. We thought Patrick Mahomes was a much more risky selection, a more volatile, greater chance of missing. Obviously, we were wrong. We were incorrect, but that's the easiest way for me to answer that question.
What do you say to people, Josh, who call us and say Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be Patrick Mahomes if he was with the Bears?
Incorrect. He's transcendent. He's elite. He could be the best ever. If not one of the top 5, he is special. His ability to play off script in this league, his vision down the field to continuously create plays for 4 quarters is just rare. I think there's 4 or 5 transcendent quarterbacks in this league. You could pick them up, drop them into any one of the 32 situations, and they will give that team a chance to win a Super Bowl, and he is one of them.
Did you and Ryan ever sit down after making the decision, whether it's year 1 or year 2, and just kind of have a come to Jesus moment and say, damn, we effed this up?
Especially with regards to Patrick. Once we saw that and what he was doing, and especially the post-snap processing, what Mitch really struggled with, absolutely. We got to that point where, hey, we missed. Now, you don't throw your hands up in the air and hide underneath your desk. You take the situation that you have and you try to make it the best you can. And for us, it was a matter of, once we got to that point where we knew Mitch wasn't going to be the long-term answer, how do we sustain this? How do we bridge to the next guy? And we just didn't win enough games to be able to work with the next guy. We were able to draft him. We just didn't have enough wins to justify being the regime that was going to help build around Justin.
Mahomes always has said that you guys told him you guys were going to take him. Is that true or false?
I don't know what was said to the agent and to the player, but I would be not being honest if I said we were ever going to take him. That might have been more smoke screen, not letting people know what we were going to do. Obviously, it sounds great. Yeah, we were going to take him, and we turned in the wrong card.
I love how honest you are. While we're being honest, how did you have the class of Justin's quarterbacks graded? What was the order of the quarterbacks when Justin Fields came out? How did you have them graded in the first round?
Justin was only behind Trevor.
That's it. Okay, he was your number 2.
He was only behind Trevor. I'm speaking from the personnel department. Our coaches may have seen it a little differently, and you could ask the coaches on their specific rankings. But our grades are in the system, and Justin was behind Trevor, and then after Justin, it was Mac Jones.
Were you how surprised were you when the draft unfolded, Josh, when obviously we all knew that Trevor was going to go first, but then the order started to fall into place? How surprised were you by what other teams were doing?
We knew the first 2 picks from March.
Right.
I remember being at North Dakota State at Trey Lance's pro day, and Ryan had let me know through whatever channels he was getting the information from that the Jets were going to take Zach Wilson. After that, pretty uncertain what was going to unfold. The aggressive trade up from San Francisco, I really thought that was going to be for Justin Fields. So I was a little shocked when they went that far up and used that much ammo. Not that Trey Lance wasn't really talented, great kid, had the makeup, just very unproven, not enough tape, one game that year because of the COVID. So you got 1 year of starting football at a 1AA school. That was a little surprising. And then I thought Justin for sure would be gone by pick 10. I thought with Denver and Carolina, backed up there in that 8 and 9 range, both needing a quarterback, I thought for sure he would be gone by pick 10. And I knew if he wasn't, that game on, we would have a chance to get him.
Josh, in the here and now, you look at this Bears roster. Do you like it? Do you believe that Ryan Poles has done a good job in a short period of time improving the talent overall on this roster?
I do. I really do. So offensively, I touched on it at the beginning of the segment. I like where it's going. I think he's done a really good job solidifying the offensive line. I think you'll really see it when Tevin gets back and you're playing with 5 legit starters. I think he inherited a couple good players on offense, with Mooney and Kmet and, Herbert. Like there was a nice little core of young talent there to add to Justin as well, obviously. Defensively, I love the secondary. I really do. I like the secondary on how they mesh together. Yeah. You got the outside cover, finesse, follow the best wideout around in Jalen. You got the gritty, tough, young, explosive in Tyreek. Same thing with the safeties. You got the finesse, ball hawk, center fielder in Eddie. You got more of the down, run thumper, can blitz and Brisker, young, up-and-coming guy. And then you got a really good, interesting nickel, who's big and can support the run, but is still agile enough to be able to excel in man coverage and has a good feel in zone in there as well. Front 7, that's where the heavy lifting is going to come in the next, 2 years. It's year 2. You're not going to have a perfect roster. I think they've made some investment in the front 7, but not enough, and they need to add some true difference makers. The issue in this roster is as clear as day. They don't have enough one-on-one winners as pass rushers, interior and exterior, both inside and outside. And that's where they need to cover the most ground. And, and then you can say it's a complete roster. But it's year 2. It took us 4 years to get really going to a point where we could, feel good we were going to win on every given Sunday. And it's year 2 for them, and they got some work to do.
Yep.
Josh, really good. We enjoyed this. Thanks so much. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Josh.